I will say the following is not an overreaction to what we saw on Friday night. I don't think it's an overreaction to say Shedeur Sanders is not getting cut.
Yeah.
5th round pick at quarterback, okay? This can go different ways. We see it every year. Some guys make it. Some guys end up on the practice squad. In case of somebody who's so bad they wash out.
50-50 to make the team usually when you're drafted in that spot.
There is enough there. And we'll have Chase Daniel on, who knows far more than I do about the X's and O's. But there's enough there. You can just watch it, eye test. The things that you said before the draft that were the positives on Shedeur, namely, he's really accurate. Showed up in the game.
Yep.
I was on the show on Friday, and Rich asked, what are you looking for from a Shedeur Sanders first start? And I said, you just want to see him play on time. All those things that the sacks he took and holding the football and trying to play hero ball time, you don't need that. We saw him do it once in that game on 4th and 1 when he scrambled like 30 yards backwards. And then I don't know if they called him for grounding or not, but he clearly just ditched the ball at the end of it. You saw it a little. But a lot of the time it was first read, second read, get the ball out in rhythm. You get the opportunities in the red zone, and he throws a couple of high degree of difficulty passes, puts it in a tough spot for touchdowns. But I don't think it's an overreaction to say already, listen, if you cut Shedeur Sanders now, he's getting claimed.
Yeah.
So let's start at the baseline of this. I know everybody wants to talk about, should he be the starter? Should he even start this week? Let's start at the baseline here, which is Shedeur's not getting cut.
Tom, there are probably some teams that hope he does get cut so they can right their draft day wrongs.
Upgrade their room.
There were plenty of teams that would have isolating just the player, even though there was, questions about the holding the football and the taking the sacks and the processing and those things just because you didn't see it on tape. There are plenty of teams that thought this guy could play. It was about everything else, which is where we're going here. So, number one, Shedeur Sanders is not going to get cut. Number two, I don't think it's an overreaction to say that we have already crossed the milestone marker of this being a sort of cultural phenomenon. That game was in Carolina. The fact that in a preseason opener, you could have a 5th round draft pick who, when he makes a completion, you can cut away every time to different groups of people in the stands wearing his jersey. His NFL jersey, not the Colorado jersey. Wearing a number 12 Cleveland Browns jersey. That is something we rarely see in the NFL. The closest thing, and I'm not saying it's the same because these are different situations, but the closest thing I can remember was Tim Tebow. It is Tim Tebow coming in. He was a 1st round pick. The Broncos traded up to get him. Okay, that was, again, on a different level. But it was the instantaneous, the cult following from college. It was the amount of attention on it. The only way that the Broncos ultimately, 3 years later, could move on from Tim Tebow was to sign Peyton Manning, who was only available because he had a broken neck.
Yeah.
Okay? That's what it took
to get you out of it. Rich always calls it the bloodless coup that John Elway pulled off to end Tebow time.
It had to be. That's the only way you could do it, was you need to sign somebody that people would be equally excited about. And even though Peyton Manning's arm was barely attached, he threw like 55 touchdowns his first year.
Yeah, his first year was unbelievable in Denver.
I was at that opener and he threw, was it 6 or 7 touchdowns?
Against the
7
Ravens.
touchdown passes, and it was just an absolute butt kicking.
And that was a weird game, too, because the Ravens coming off a Super Bowl, but the
Orioles
refused to change the schedule because they share a parking lot in Baltimore.
Correct.
And so they, defending champs, went on the road to Denver. Oh, by the way, Peyton Manning's debut. Unbelievable.
And 55 touchdowns, I believe, was the number that season.
Yeah.
And that's what it took to make people not be talking about Tim Tebow. It's going to be similar with Shedeur, and I don't know that Joe Flacco has 55 touchdowns in him.
Left in his career or this season?
I mean, 2-3 years maybe. If you get 30 touchdowns out of Joe Flacco, you're pretty happy. So now Kevin Stefanski's in a tough spot here because realistically going into this thing, you are not thinking it's likely that Shedeur Sanders is going to be your starting quarterback, okay? Now, were they going in open-minded? My understanding was yes, that they really wanted to, hey, we're going to have a plan, we're going to work through it, we're going to be adaptable, we're going to figure out who the best guy is, and ultimately you got to put the best one on the field. Shedeur shows enough in that first start now that the fans, social media, LeBron James, the mainstream media, everyone now is getting ahead of where we actually are in terms of where Shedeur is at in his progression. But did it look good? Yeah. There were some really good things that he did on the field, and it makes you wonder, okay, Are you better off putting Joe Flacco on the field this Saturday night against the Eagles, who probably aren't going to play their guys? If Joe Flacco plays well, then it becomes an argument. All right, now it's a debate, even if it's not a debate in the building, but it's a debate publicly of Flacco or Shedeur, which way should they go? If Flacco plays badly, in the minds of everyone, there is no debate.
No debate.
Right? How can you not put Shedeur onto the field? And I've witnessed this firsthand. I was at the opener for the Bears in 2018 when they had just signed Mike Glennon.
Oh, McGlennon.
And drafted Mitch Trubisky.
Yep.
Again, Trubisky's the number 2 pick.
Trubisky.
You know ultimately he's going to be the guy. You're not sitting there going, is he going to make the team?
They traded up for him.
They traded up to get Mitch Trubisky at number 2.
It's amazing.
One
Who
spot.
did they miss in that draft? That's interesting.
That was 2017.
There were a few. The guy who's gone to the Super Bowl basically every year in his career is one of them.
Oh, that guy.
Yeah, number 15.
But you watched it. Mike Glennon goes out in that first game, just gets the crap kicked out of him in the preseason opener. It's absolutely derailed. Then Trubisky comes in, and it's like, oh man, this looks pretty good. Now, all they were calling in that game was bootlegs to the right, because that's what Trubisky did really well. So he's just on the run, throwing the ball. You're like, oh man, this guy's got it. We got to the halftime of week 2, and Mike Glennon was out of the lineup, and Trubisky was in, and went to the Pro Bowl that year, went to the playoffs, I might add. Not for a double doink, they're winning a playoff game, and the entire Trubisky, Matt Nagy legacy might be rewritten, but I digress.
Doink, doink.
But that's what it reminds me of, is now, if Flacco goes and plays badly, now you're really fighting the uphill battle of, hey, this is the plan. We're going to go with the veteran. Kenny Pickett's still not ready. Okay, Kenny Pickett is still not even ready to do team drills this week. So any thought that Pickett is going to win the job, not impossible, but let's say it's going to be difficult for him. Dylan Gabriel's finally reintegrating in. You also now run that risk of, well, let's say Dylan Gabriel doesn't go out and play well, or even if he does. Everything is now shaped through the lens of a highly publicized preseason debut for one guy in Shedeur Sanders, who may or may not actually end up being the starter when you come out on the other side of this. And the most difficult things for teams to do, and this happens every year when you've got guys who are drafted higher, right? Guys you signed in free agency. The hardest thing to do is to sit there and say, well, we are going to have to do the thing that goes against what people in the public think. We have to do what's right for this team. And if anybody has experience in that, it's Kevin Stefanski, who's a 2-time NFL Coach of the Year in Cleveland. Has there been a year that's gone by in Cleveland that's just been normal since Stefanski got there? Well before that, too. But his first year is COVID. They go to the playoffs. He misses the playoff game because he gets COVID.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Right.
You have the Deshaun Watson trade that obviously did not work out. You had, in 2021, that was still Baker Mayfield, and that was a topsy-turvy year, and there was back and forth. You had Odell was still there, and that controversy. 2022, you bring in Deshaun, the suspension, all that. 23, it's an injury to Deshaun. 24 is an injury to Deshaun. 23, you still make a playoff run. Nobody has navigated chaos better than Kevin Stefanski. So this is quite possibly, in his mind, like a bump in the road, which I'm sure is part of the reason when Andrew Berry pulls the trigger on Shedeur Sanders in the 5th round after taking Dylan Gabriel in the 3rd. It's like, well, what's the worst that's going to happen?
Right.
Don't forget the Nick Chubb injury in 23.
Right.
Nick Chubb injury. They had all kinds of injuries in 23. They were unbelievably beat up. I believe they started 5 quarterbacks that year. I can't even off the top of my head name all of them. Deshaun Watson was one. Jeff Driscoll was one.
I haven't. Let's go. Jeff Driscoll, yep.
Right.
Deshaun Watson.
Flacco.
Obviously Flacco. Can you name the other 2?
Was Snoop Huntley there that year?
Incorrect.
No, he was still on the Ravens. He
I'm
was
just
there
going to
last
say
year. Now he's
Josh
back.
Jackson just because why not?
Josh Johnson. Guys with 3 names.
Dorian Thompson Robinson.
Correct.
And
not TJ Jefferson, but PJ Walker.
PJ Walker. They went to the playoffs with that group.
Flacco went 4-1 and was comeback player of the year,
Right.
coming back from the couch.
It's unbelievable. So that's the context of the spot the Browns are in. This is, by Browns standards, a really good problem to have. Hey, that 5th round pick that everybody passed on a bunch of times in the draft looks like he's got something, at least enough to let's try to develop him. Whatever the furor is outside the doors, Kevin Stefanski has shown he can be the steady guy. I remember Brad Childers telling me that years ago, who was the guy who first hired Kevin Stefanski to be his assistant. Not an assistant coach, his assistant in 2006. And it was, Kevin is like the calm in the storm, always. Well, here comes the storm. It's a great storm to have because you might have stumbled into something here with Shedeur Sanders. The next storm is, who do you roll out there on Saturday? And how do you handle whatever the reaction is, good or bad, as this thing moves forward?